Okay, so now that we know about frequency distributions and all the sorts of graphs and histograms that we can make with them, let's explore some other types of graphs that we can do with raw data that we have collected. So for this section, section 2.2, we're going to be looking at things like stem and leaf plots, pie charts, dot plots, scatter plots. These are all things that you've probably seen before. I say all. Most of them will be things you've seen before. We're just kind of lumping them all into one section. So our first graph or display, if you will, that we're going to look at is a stem and leaf plot. So for the sake of consistency, let me go see what size font I had. Calibri 21, got it. So let's go here, Calibri 21, got it. There we go. So let's start with a definition. Okay, in a stem and leaf plot, each number is separated into a stem and a leaf. And you may be like, well, how do I know which one is which? Well, the leaf is always the rightmost digit. It doesn't matter how many digits the number has. Or even if there's a decimal, it doesn't matter. In a stem and leaf plot, the leaf is always the rightmost digit. So there should be as many leaves as there are entries in the data set. Okay. So let's look at example 1, and we're going to create a stem and leaf plot. So let me get that example, paste it in there. Here, it asks us to use a stem and leaf plot to display the data, which represents the number of hours 24 nurses at Woodland Heights worked last week. And then we have to describe any patterns that we see. So when we're looking at this, we need to first look for, kind of like on the histograms and the frequency distributions, we need to look for our max and our min. That's kind of our first step on a stem and leaf plot, because you need to know where to start the stems. So as I'm looking, I'm going to look for the min first. So I see a 30, I see a 30, I see a 24. I think that's going to be our, right here is going to be our min. Now we need to look for the max. 40, 73. Okay, I think that's going to be our max. Okay, so for this one, Now we need to think, what stems do I need? The leaves are always the rightmost digit. But I need to start with my lowest stem, which in our case would be 20. And I need to go to my highest stem, which again in our case would be 73. We already said that over here. So we need to go from 20 to 70, but I can't skip anything. So I can't go, oh, well, I don't have any 60s, so I'm going to skip 60. No, 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 no. I cannot skip anything. So let's start making our stem and leaf plot down here. I like to say, okay, well, here is going to be our stem. Well, normally you don't even have that. What you have is you just start. So you would say, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Start your line. And then now we need to go through and record everything. So we've got a 40, a 73, a 35, 48, 38, 40, 36, 50, 40, 35, 30, 24, 40, 54, 40, 36, 33, 40 again, 32. Let's make that a little bit more. 32. It's supposed to be a 2. Then an 8. Another 40. 39. 32. 36. Now, on stem and leaf plots, we need to make a key. You're like, well, why do we need a key? I know what this means. Yeah, you know what it means, but I don't know. How do I read these numbers? Is this 2.4? Is it 0.2? Well, it wouldn't be 0.24 because we'd have a 0.2 out here. But how do I read the number? So we have to put a key here to say something like 2 a line and 4 equals 24 hours. That way you're telling the person, hey, this is how you read it. If you do not have a key, if I were to ask you to make one of these on a test and you don't have a key, then guess what? You're going to get points taken off. Make sure to put your key. We're not quite done. So this is like the first step, just getting them in there. Now we need to order from least to greatest. I like to call this get them in there. We're in there. So we got them in there. Then we need to order from least to greatest. So let's do that. We're going to have to kind of create a new one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, with that said, you don't have to draw a whole new one. you can take the one that you have and just erase what you need to erase to get them put in order. I'm just going to do a whole new one because it'll be easier. Okay, so on all the 30s, I have a 0 and 2 2s. So 0, 2, 2. We got how many 2s? 2. I have a 3. What else? I have 1, 2 5s. I have 1, 2, 3 6s. 1, 2 8s. And then a 9. Now I'm going to go through and make sure that I've gotten everything. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 observations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I got them all. Now for the 40s, I just had this 8 that's out of place, but how many zeros do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros, and then an 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros, and then an 8. Notice how I'm keeping these lined up. I'm not spacing them out. Like on the 5, I don't want to put the 0 here and then say, oh, I'll put the 4 way out here. No. Keep them lined up, because what this will help you do when we start talking about the shape of a distribution, this will help you determine the shape of the distribution. So keep them lined up. That's what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so now I've ordered them from least to greatest. I'm going to do it right and put a key here. 2-4 is equal to 24 hours. Okay, so there's our dot plot in all of its glory. Not dot plot, what am I saying? Our stem and leaf plot. There's our stem and leaf plot. So we made it, we built it. Now they ask us to describe any patterns that we might see. So I'm going to come in here. Patterns can you see from looking at this stem and leaf plot? Well, let's see. How many data points are there in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. There's 24 data points. And if I'm looking at this, most of them are less than 40 or 40 hours or less, really. So we could say that. Yeah, that's one of our observations we could see. So patterns. The vast majority of the nurses work 40 hours or less. If we want to elaborate on that, we could say, count how many are 40 hours or less, or we know there's 24, so 20 of the 24 nurses. Also, another pattern that we could say is exactly half of the nurses work between 30 and 39 hours. So those are a couple of patterns. Now, sometimes we need to break these stem and leaf plots up into what I call a high and a low. So sometimes the stems need to be broken into a high and low step. For example, 3L would be 30 to 34, while 3H, 30 to 34 hours, while 3H would be 35 to 39 hours. So let's do that with this one. Example number 2, they want us to organize the data from example 1 into a stem and leaf plot that has 2 rows for each stem. And then it says describe any patterns. Okay, so let's do that. So we know we're going to have to go from 2 all the way down to 7. So I'm going to start up here with my 2L, 2H, 3L, 3H, 4L, 4H, 5L, 5H, 6L, 6H, 7L, 7H. Now, you may be wondering, why on earth would I have to do this? Why do I need to break these up? Well, if I look at, that was a good line, if I look at the data from the original stem and leaf plot, when I'm getting around the 30s and 40s, those just dwarf everything else. Like the 2, the 5, and the 7, those stems, yes, they only have 2 observations, but the 3 and the 4 have 12 in one case and 8 in another case. So I'm going to break them into highs and lows and then see, like this 73 doesn't look like it's much of an outlier. I mean, you only skip one stem. You're like, well, wait a minute, but it goes from 54 to 73. Isn't that a big jump? It is, but visually it doesn't look like a big jump. So when you break it into highs and lows, you get a better visual picture when some of the stems kind of dwarf, when you add all the leaves, dwarf the others. So 24 is a low 20. So I'm going to put that under 2L. And then let's look for my low 30s. I have a 0, a 2, a 2, and a 3. So for 30L, I'm going to put a 0, a 2, a 2, a 3. And then the other 30s are high 30s. So 5, 2 5s, 3 6s, 2 5s, 3 6s, 2 8s, and then a 9, 2 8s, and then a 9. Okay. So now that 30 stem isn't quite as long. The 40s, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 40s, and then a 48. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 48. A 50 and a 54, those are low 50s. 50, 54, and then a 73. Okay, so now don't forget our key. So I would say like 4H and then an 8 is equal to 48 hours. Okay. Now, they ask us to describe any patterns with this one. So, with the stems kind of broken up, it shortens the 30 and the 40 stems a bit. And I can see a huge group between 30 and 54. But then now this 24 is looking like an outlier. And this 73 is looking like an outlier. So maybe that's the pattern that I talked about over here. Excuse me. Maybe that's the pattern I talked about. Looking at the stem and leaf plot in this manner. We can see that 24 and 73 hours. Whoa. Look more like the outliers they are. Okay. Okay. There we go. There's our observation. Well, there's our pattern. So this concludes our discussion on stem and leaf plots. Stay tuned for the next video of this section, where we're going to look at dot plots and then even possibly a pie chart.